In 1960, Alfred Hitchcock filmed parts of Psycho that were so shocking he felt they were too extreme. This included a 4-minute shower scene with 70 knife stabs and Norman Bates talking to dead bodies in his workshop. A fruit seller shares something so shocking that it caused heart attacks during test screenings. These cutscenes were kept hidden for many years. Up to now, this is the story of what Hitchcock chose not to show and why even he had his boundaries. In 1959, Alfred Hitchcock made a choice that changed movies for good. He purchased the rights to a book named Psycho for $9,500. The amount of money wasn't very big, even at the time, but Hitchcock had a strategy. He wanted to keep others from buying the book and spoiling the twists in the story. To keep it a secret, he sent his assistant, Peggy Robertson, to buy copies of the book from various shops. He wanted to keep the shocking surprises a secret from as many people as possible before the movie was released. Hitchcock was not only interested in the story, he noticed a chance to take a bold action. At that time, he was well known for creating sleek and exciting tales. With Psycho, he aimed to surprise audiences and push the boundaries of cinema. It wasn't only about creating a popular success. It was about making something entirely different. This investment was successful, turning his $9,500 into a movie that made over $50 million abroad. Such success was rare for a film with a small budget. Creating Psycho was not simple. When Hitchcock suggested the idea to Paramount Pictures, they rejected it. They believed the story was gross and would damage their image. Most directors would have quit, but Hitchcock had faith in the idea. He even offered to forego his normal $250,000 fee and work for free just to make the film happen. He asked for a share of the income instead of a paycheck. To save money, he also recommended using the team from his TV show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. The studio still refused, even with these offers. They even lied, claiming all their sound stages were completely booked. Hitchcock realized they were lying, but instead of getting mad, he thought of a daring answer. He said he would pay for the movie himself if Paramount would agree to release it. By December 1959, Hitchcock and Paramount reached an agreement. He would fund the movie with his own company, Chamley Productions, using a budget of $806,947. Paramount would receive 40% of the income, and Hitchcock would keep 60% ownership of the film. Hitchcock took a big chance to make this happen. He took out a loan on his house and left his regular job, risking everything on the film succeeding. He had complete power over the creative process, so he made the final decisions on everything. Hitchcock took care of the movie's marketing himself. He shared the earnings with Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins, which allowed them to make more money over time. This deal wasn't just smart, it was groundbreaking. It gave directors more control and changed the way movies were created. Hitchcock made very clever choices when it came to choosing actors. He chose Janet Leigh to play Marion Crane, even though she was a big star who usually earned $100,000 for each movie. Hitchcock offered her just $25,000, but she accepted immediately because she wanted to work with him. Leigh's part was surprising. Her character dies early in the movie, which surprised the viewers. That twist made her casting even more successful. Hitchcock played pranks on her while making the movie, such as hiding a scary prop in her dressing room to keep her tense for her parts. Leigh won awards for her performance, but the part was challenging. After the movie was released, she got scary letters from fans, and one was so concerning that she had to contact the FBI. Hitchcock picked Anthony Perkins for the part of Norman Bates and paid him $40,000. Perkins made Norman seem shy and nervous, which made his dark side even more surprising. Perkins added little touches, like having Norman nervously eat candy corn, to make him seem more believable. This act marked a turning point in Perkins' career and set a new benchmark for movie villains. The supporting group was selected with care. Vera Miles acted as Marion's sister, Lila. She had previously worked with Hitchcock and was under contract with him, so it was an obvious choice. Hitchcock wasn't very pleased with his performance and called him stiff. Martin Balsam played Detective Arbogast, whose investigation adds to the suspense in the second part of the movie. Norman's mother's voice was unique. Hitchcock used recordings from 3 different players to create a spooky and unnatural sound. The Bates Motel and house from Psycho are now 2 of the most well-known locations in movie history. But they were made fast and at a low cost. It took just 15 days and cost $15,000. To save money, Hitchcock used pieces from an old set of the 1927 silent film Uncle Tom's Cabin. Universal Studios frequently reused sets, but this particular one became famous. The Bates Motel was never a real, finished building. Only the front office and 2 rooms were constructed, while the others were not real. They used clever camera settings to make it appear as though there is a complete motel. None of the scenes in the Bates house were shot inside the real building. Those eerie scenes were filmed on a set called Stage 28, where Phantom of the Opera was filmed years earlier. The Bates house and hotel were intended to be temporary sets for a film, but Universal kept them for many years. They appeared in sequels, TV shows like Bates Motel, and became very popular for studio tours. The set was moved and remade many times, but fans continued to return to see it. The shape of the Bates house was intentional. It was inspired by Edward Hopper's picture House by the Railroad, created in 1925, creating a sense of sadness and loneliness. Hitchcock later stated that this picture inspired him to create the Bates house. His team made the house look just like the one in the picture by placing it on a hill, giving it an eerie, watchful presence over the motel. It wasn't only about appearance. The house represented loneliness and showed Norman Bates's troubled mind. The Bates house has shaped the way haunted houses are built in movies over the years. Many horror films made after Psycho have the same creepy, isolated style. Hitchcock was very skilled at planning. He planned every scene of the movie before he began shooting. The shower scene lasted just 45 seconds, but it required 78 camera sets and 52 edits to make. Hitchcock collaborated with Saul Bass, a well-known graphic artist, to carefully plan out the scene. Hitchcock relied heavily on his storyboards, so he often didn't look through the camera while shooting. He already knew how the shot would appear. Janet Leigh, who acted in the movie, recalled that people were very impressed by it. When asked, Hitchcock would simply say, "I already know what's being filmed." The music for the shower scene was decided on early. Bernard Herrmann wrote the high-pitched violin music before they shot the scene. Hitchcock made sure that every cut in his films matched the music exactly. Combining sound and images from the beginning was a big new idea. Hitchcock said that making Psycho wasn't thrilling for him because he had already done all the original planning beforehand. He said he imagined the whole movie before starting to film. "I already know it by heart when we start filming." This planning is what made Psycho a classic film. The famous shower scene in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho looked different when it was first shown in theaters. It used to be longer and more surprising. The original version of the scene was 4 minutes long, but the crowd only saw a 2-minute version. Hitchcock included content that was too violent for that period. For example, there was a close-up of a knife stabbing Marion Crane's stomach, with chocolate syrup used as fake blood shooting out. Another shot showed her dead body leaning against the tiles, her eyes wide open, looking straight at the camera for what felt like forever. There was a quick scene showing her bare top when she fell from the shower. Hitchcock knew the censors wouldn't approve, but he included it to keep them from focusing on other risky parts. The first cut had 70 knife thrusts, which is 14 more than what was shown in the movie. Hitchcock wanted people to feel like they were really feeling every stab. Most of this footage was lost. A small piece appeared at a sale in 1997. Somebody purchased it for $25,000, but it has never been displayed to the public, making people curious about how shocking the original scene was. Hitchcock didn't use fancy technology to make the scene feel real. He used easy but clever tricks. He chose Hershey's chocolate syrup for the blood because it looked great in black and white movies. He combined it with water to achieve the right thickness, tried over 30 other choices, and kept it warm so it would move smoothly on Janet Leigh's body. They used 42 bottles of sugar for this scene. The sound of the knife stabbing wasn't actually happening. It was a knife cutting into a melon. Hitchcock tried different fruits until he found the one that produced the best sound. For the well-known scene of blood moving down the drain, they made a special tube to spin the syrup and make it look realistic. Even the water on the camera wasn't real. It was just some drops on a clear surface in front of the camera lens. Every little detail was carefully planned, and it looked so real that some people fainted when they saw it. Some scenes were still too inappropriate for the judges. The company wanted changes. One scene showed the knife going into Marion's stomach, and they felt it was too disturbing. Another person was seen sliding down the wall, leaving a trail of blood. There was a close-up shot of Norman Bates cleaning blood off his hands. The most controversial shot features Marion yelling with her tongue out, filmed in slow motion to make it even more shocking. But he finally needed to reduce it by about 17 seconds. Most of the footage was lost, but people still want to know what the complete scene looked like. Next, there was a scene showing Arbogast being murdered. The original scene was nearly 90 seconds longer. After the first stab at the top of the stairs, Mother kept attacking him, cutting him 15 to 20 times as he fell. The actor, Martin Balsam, had thick stage blood on his face and secret blood packets in his shirt burst open to show deep, bloody wounds. Hitchcock had Balsam repeat the scene several times to get all the footage he wanted. After falling down the stairs 14 times, Balsam felt really sick. Hitchcock chose to remove most of the scenes. He believed the audience would stop being scared if the scene was very intense. He only included 2 or 3 stabs in the finished version. For many years, the original footage was not seen until 2018 when an old copy was discovered. The footage couldn't be fixed, but it showed how powerful the original version was. In 1960, test audiences didn't like the longer scene, which helped Hitchcock decide to make it shorter. One of the most interesting parts of this scene was the view from above. Hitchcock positioned the camera high up, close to the roof, to capture all the action while keeping Mother's face hidden. The camera shows a wide view as Arbogast goes up the stairs, and then it follows him when he falls. This strange view made the scene feel scarier and more surprising. Hitchcock first experimented with this type of shot in a silent film in 1927, but he got it just right this time. Hitchcock cut some shots to keep the scene clear. One shot showed Arbogast's perspective as he fell, with the camera going down a slide. People felt nauseous during test viewing, so Hitchcock removed it. Another deleted part showed detailed views of the knife and Mother's hands. Hitchcock believed these cuts made the scene look too cluttered. He also filmed Mother standing over Arbogast's body because it revealed too much about the killer. Hitchcock worked hard to keep one scene in the movie. It showed Arbogast lying dead at the bottom of the stairs. The company thought it was too violent, but Hitchcock believed it was necessary. He agreed to reduce the shot length from 7 seconds to 4 seconds. In the end, the combination of stress, mystery, and horror made the scene memorable and showed Hitchcock's skill. Besides that, Norman Bates, the spooky and complicated character from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, was originally much darker and more unsettling than what viewers experienced. Hitchcock shot some scenes that showed Norman's troubled mind, but most were cut to meet the censor's rules at the time. For example, the well-known peephole scene was longer and more powerful at first. The camera focused closely on Norman's eye as he watched Marion get undressed, highlighting his wide-open pupil and jerking eyelid. From Norman's point of view, the watchers saw Marion taking off her bra and slip in a lot more detail. Hitchcock used a special lens to make it seem like the audience was watching through a peephole with Norman, which made the scene feel more uneasy. Censors thought this version was too extreme, so it was shortened. Another scene showed Norman in his office organizing toy birds. He arranged them to all face the bathroom door, showing a creepy link between his hobby and his obsession with watching Marion. Close-up pictures of the bird's shiny eyes were meant to reflect Norman's own look, showing that his taxidermy hobby was more than just a strange interest. These moments showed Norman's tendency to spy on others, which was both creepy and eye-opening, but they were considered too suggestive and were not included in the final film. There were also moments that showed Norman's interest in death. This happened right after he put Marion's body in the trunk of her car. He went back to her hotel room, picked up her underwear, smelled them, and laid them out on the bed to look like a person. He lay down next to the empty clothes, gently caressing them as if Marion were still present. Another upsetting moment was captured while cleaning the bathroom. Norman found a piece of Marion's hair in the drain. He wrapped it around his finger and put it in his pocket while singing softly to himself. One of the most surprising scenes that Hitchcock shot but didn't include was Norman in his taxidermy workshop talking to his mother. He gently petted a bird's feathers, which felt strangely similar to touching human skin, and said, "You know I would never touch a live girl, Mom. Only those who have passed away really understand me." Even Hitchcock thought this scene was too extreme, so he chose to remove it. The conversation needed to be made gentler to respect limits. In the lounge scene, Norman and Marion have a conversation. In the original script, Norman says that his mother taught him that love isn't real, except for the love between a mother and her son. This line was removed because it made his relationship with his mother seem too upsetting. Another scene changed near the end of the movie, where Sam accused Norman of killing Marion. Norman's first response was, "Should I kill her? She was pretty. I wanted to keep her." But it was labeled as inappropriate and taken down. The psychiatrist's description of Norman's condition was simplified. At first, the doctor described how Norman's mental illness caused him to have intense feelings of sexual shame, a desire to watch others, and an attraction to dead bodies. This was simplified to avoid overwhelming crowds. By cutting these scenes and lines, Hitchcock made Norman's character more mysterious, allowing the audience to imagine his darker side. This made Norman even scary because he felt more real. He seemed more like a real person than just a monster. Later, it was said that these changes made the figure feel more human, which made him much scarier. Let's discuss the news about the fruit cellar. In December 1959, Hitchcock made a longer version of the scene that was almost 90 seconds long. The camera was meant to take close-up shots of Mother's frozen body, highlighting her. Each shot was meant to last about 12 seconds, keeping the audience focused on the unsettling details. The special effects team spent more than a month making a fake body that looked very realistic. They even added small details like decayed tissue and signs of bugs. It wasn't only the dead body that made the scene frightening. Hitchcock caught Lila Crane screaming in terror for an additional 23 seconds. One scream lasted 7 seconds. The scene will also show quick glimpses of Norman Bates as a child, standing over his mother's dead body. When a test audience saw this version, they had a strong response. 14 people fainted, and 1 person had a heart attack. Paramount Pictures thought it was too powerful and asked Hitchcock to make it shorter. He cut the scene by 47 seconds, took out the most graphic parts, and removed the childhood memories. When Psycho was released in 1960, it created a lot of debate because of its scenes. In the UK, censors wanted to cut the entire scene because they found it too shocking. Hitchcock got them to keep a shorter version, but 18 seconds of film was permanently lost. Funeral planners in the US have sued Paramount, claiming that a scene in their movie disrespects the deceased. The lawsuit didn't succeed, but it attracted more attention to the picture. Religious groups also expressed their concerns. The Catholic Church initially criticized the movie, but it changed its rating after Hitchcock added a message stating that the film did not promote disrespect for human remains. This warning was shown in theaters for the first 3 months after the movie came out. In Kansas, the film was banned for a short time, which was unusual. 3 people said they had dreams and felt temporarily paralyzed after watching it, and they named it corpse shock syndrome. Psychologists later said it was just a big emotional reaction, so the ban was removed. Alfred Hitchcock faced challenges with cameras when making Psycho in 1960. PCA didn't approve the script on September 12, 1959. Jeffrey Sherlock, the head of the PCA, wrote a letter to Hitchcock saying it was not acceptable. He didn't like that the movie had a single couple in bed, a violent murder in the shower, and showed Norman Bates as a cross-dresser. But Hitchcock didn't give up. He thought of smart ways to handle this. For example, he added surprising elements to the early versions of the film, knowing that censors would not allow them. One of these was a picture of Marion Crane's exposed back. When the editors asked for changes, Hitchcock acted like he would comply. This allowed him to preserve the times he valued, like hints of intimacy, untouched. One of his most daring actions took place on February 3, 1960. Hitchcock asked Sherlock to see the filming of the famous shower scene, but he pulled a prank on him. He made an over-the-top version that had a lot of nudity and blood, hoping it would shock the editor. When Sherlock asked for changes, Hitchcock pretended to agree, but he trimmed the scene just the way he originally wanted. The end version was just 45 seconds long, but it used 78 camera angles and had 52 edits, making a shocking moment that people would remember. Hitchcock did something that was not allowed in American movies before. He displayed a running toilet on the screen. It may not seem important today, but in 1960, it was very surprising. On March 25, 1960, Hitchcock said that the flushing toilet was important to the story because it showed Marion trying to get rid of proof. The censors approved it, marking a significant time in movie history. It also opened the door for future films to explore new ideas. Filming in black and white helped Hitchcock escape some issues with censors. He chose to make the film in black and white on October 2, 1959, in part due to budget cuts. But it ended up being a great decision. He used chocolate syrup as fake blood in the shower scene. In black and white, it seemed real, but in color, it might have been overwhelming. The dark shadows and strong contrast of black and white created a spooky atmosphere without using any graphic images. Black and white made daring scenes less surprising. Marion in her bra and Norman peeking through a hole looked less interesting in black and white. Hitchcock made two versions of the shower scene, a milder one for US viewers and a more graphic one for European audiences, who had more relaxed rules. Since both versions were in black and white, it was simple to change the film. Hitchcock had another clever idea. During the censor tests on May 25, 1960, he played the picture a little out of focus. This made it difficult for them to notice anything wrong. This trick worked really well in black and white because fuzzy spots were harder to see. Alfred Hitchcock launched Psycho on June 16, 1960, and it stunned audiences everywhere. Hitchcock wanted to keep the movie's secret safe, so he thought of clever and unique ideas. He bought as many copies of the book as possible to keep the story a secret from others. He made a strict rule. No one could enter the theater after the show began. This rule was new then and made everyone even more excited to see it. Hitchcock's method of promoting the movie was enjoyable and clever. He was in trailers showing people around the spooky Bates Motel. The movie ads featured Janet Leigh in lingerie, which was quite bold for that period. The tagline said it was a completely new and exciting computer experience. To keep the movie a surprise, Hitchcock didn't let reviewers watch it before its release, so they couldn't give away any surprises. When the movie came out in New York, Hitchcock included another unusual and dramatic idea. He had a nurse in the hallway in case anyone fainted from fear. Initially, Psycho was shown in just two houses, one in New York and the other in Los Angeles. This made people curious and excited before it was released everywhere on September 8, 1960. Hitchcock didn't spend a lot of money on the movie. It cost $806,947 to produce, which was quite inexpensive at that time. He saved money by using the team from his TV show, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He even decided not to take his regular pay as a director, and decided to take 60% of the movie's income instead. This choice made him very wealthy when the movie became a huge success. Psycho made $32 million during its first showing in the US, which was amazing for a low-budget black and white film. To appreciate how successful this was, the movie earned 39 times what it cost to make. This is approximately $290 million today. The movie earned millions in other countries and made even more money when it was re-released later. Hitchcock's decision to take a share of the income instead of a set fee was successful. He made around $15 million, which is more than $135 million today. It turned out to be his most successful movie. The movie's success also impacted Hollywood. Bold movies have the potential to earn a lot of money. Psycho cost a lot less to make than big movies like Ben-Hur, but it made much more money in the end. This inspired companies to explore new ideas, resulting in more creative films in the following years. When Psycho was released, not everyone liked it. Some reviewers felt it was too violent or surprising. The New York Times said it seemed low quality and didn't have the style that people expected from Hitchcock. They complimented the acting, especially Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates and Janet Leigh for her strong role. In France, the reviewers were more pleased. They said it was one of the best movies of 1960 because they recognized its greatness before many Americans did. The movie was nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Director for Hitchcock and Best Supporting Actress for Janet Leigh. But it didn't win any awards, and many people now think this was a big mistake. Still, Janet Leigh got a Golden Globe, and the movie received a special Edgar Allan Poe Award for its suspenseful story. People gradually understood how important Psycho was. In 1992, it was included in the U.S. National Film Registry because it is important to culture and history. The American Film Institute recognized it as one of the greatest movies of all time. They said Norman Bates is one of the best baddies in movie history. In 2012, a group of experts named Psycho the best movie ever, surpassing the previous favorite, Citizen Kane.